Morning, everybody. Great to see you. Thank you for welcoming me into your homes for a little fight morning quick card breakdown show with this fresh cup of coffee. We've got UFC Vegas 11, Colby Covington versus Tyron-Woodley. Heated grudge match. 14 fights, 9 of which are expected to end inside the distance. I want to thank MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI for hosting the podcast. Let's get things started here, folks. First fight of the night, we've got Tyson Nam taking on Cerrone-Rivera. Cerrone-Rivera, 25 years old. We recently saw him on Contender Series where he walked away with a victory. Coming in this spot with a 4.5-inch reach advantage. Let's talk a little DraftKings pricing here. Cerrone-Rivera coming in at 7,600. On the other side of the fight, you have Tyson Nam. Well-known name, 36 years of age, 8,600 in DraftKings, -200 favorite. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at -125. A few things that stand out here. Cerrone-Rivera is a lanky southpaw who doesn't pack much power. Tyson Nam, stout, has solid takedown defense. Is going to be the heavier puncher in this spot. Rivera has the much better ground game. I think this fight is a closely lined fight here. I'm going to be rolling with Tyson Nam. I think he has a full camp under his belt, and he's going to be landing the heavier strikes. He's got to look out for a volume discrepancy, though. He has put himself in a bad spot in the past by lack of output. We saw it in the Kai Kara-France fight as well as a few other bouts. But give me Tyson Nam. Second fight of the night, we've got Darrick Minner taking on TJ Laramie. TJ Laramie, 22 years of age, built like a tank, like a bowling ball. 9,200 in DK. One of the higher priced favorites out there. -315. Congrats if you got in on this line earlier, because it has since widened. Darrick Minner, known on the regional scene. Also, we saw him take on Grant Dawson recently and was submitted in that spot, though had his moments. Submission specialist, $7,000 in DK, +245 underdog. Minner, 30 years old now, right? He's made a decent account of himself early in fights, and then the wheels seem to fall off the later the fight goes. TJ Laramie, 12-3 record, Canadian fighter. Has T-Rex arms, built kind of like Sean Shirk. 7 knockouts. We saw him in Contender Series. He was on top of Swain, and Swain ended up injuring his rib cage, won it out. In this spot, you watch Darrick Minner. He is all gas, no brakes. Now, Minner is out with Grant Dawson right now. It's interesting. He's training with Mr. Kraus. So maybe that fight IQ, we might see some subtle differences in fight IQ headed into this fight. But I'm going to be picking Laramie. I think his power is going to be too much. I like his positional awareness on the ground. Got to be careful of that choke, though. So give me Laramie to walk away with the victory there. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at minus 285. So give me Laramie inside the distance. Take a look at that number. Next up, Andre Ewell taking on Ewell-Rivera. Ewell-Rivera coming in 7,400 in DK, plus 180 underdog, 10-5 record. This kid will fight for your money. Rivera is going to get popped at distance against Andre Ewell. There's no doubt about that. 16-6 record for Ewell, 8,800 minus 220. Favorite, 32 years old. We saw him in there against Renan Barão, against my boy Natty Wood, against Anderson Dos Santos, against Marlon Vera. He's faced some stiff competition inside the octagon. We know who he is. He's a range fighter, doesn't possess much of a ground game. Ewell-Rivera, I have questions whether or not he has the ability to get this fight to the ground and then keep Ewell on the ground. I don't see that happening. But I will say that Rivera is live here. He has the ability to take a punch, and he's willing to take 5 to give 1. Trains closely with Jared Gordon, and I see some similarities as far as the toughness inside of the octagon. You look at Ewell-Rivera's previous bouts. He's had to dig deep. I'm going to be picking Andre Ewell by decision in this spot, though I am considering Ewell-Rivera to be a live dog. Next up, we head to the 135-pound division, where we have Randy Costa, 7,800 in DK, plus 100 underdog, still only 26 years of age, 5-1 record overall. Good friends with Joe Lozon, training partners, ended up moving his team to ATT for this camp. Cerrone-Newson, 8,400 in DK, minus 130 favorite. Now, this line originally opened. Newson was a significant underdog here, but it has flipped, and we've got Newson as the favorite. 9-2 record, was in there against Ricardo Ramos, and Ramos looked like he was ready for a conventional boxer in that matchup, but you saw Newson has some pretty slick ground transitions, even got out of some tough spots. He reminded me of John Dodson in a way, the way he's able to get up from underneath opponents. He had a black belt on top of him. Evasiveness, very impressed in that regard. He's going to be at a significant reach disadvantage here. One thing I will say about Randy Costa is that he uses his reach very well. We saw in the Boston Salmon fight, was peppering Boston at range and then took him out. He's been subbed before. I do question his gas tank. It's hard to bank on Costa making significant improvements here without seeing it inside of the octagon. We're going to be playing in the small octagon here inside of the apex. I think Newson may be the correct side in this spot. By that, I mean the winning side. So I'm going to be picking Cerrone-Newson to come away with a victory here. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at minus 275. Watch out for Costa early, though. He comes out like a man on fire. One thing, when you watch Costa fight, it's almost like he's got two separate bodies while he's fighting. His striking on the feet with his hands is one thing, and then his kicks, they just don't seem to work well together. I think that's what's gassing him out. He doesn't seem very fluid at all. It's challenging when you see someone with some hitches in their game, and I see that in Costa. Granted, power, precision, but he's going to have to show us that he has a gas tank. So I'm going to be picking Newson to win by stoppage late in this fight. Next up, women's 135-pound division, where we have Jessica Rose Clark, 9-6 record, 8,900 in DraftKings, -220 favorite. I would be avoiding her in DraftKings. Taking on Sarah Alpar, 9-4 record, 7,300 plus 180 underdog. Alpar is the younger fighter. Alpar has a wrestling base. You're going to watch Instagram, etc., even previous tape. Clark is the more fundamental fighter, better technique. She has a high guard and will appear as if she's the more competent fighter in there. But you watch the Kianzad fight and you watch other fights, Beck Rawlings, Paige Van Zandt fight. I have issues with Clark's the way she's able to push. It seems like she's robotic in nature in there. She is very stiff on the feet, and Alpar is a dog. She may look like a soccer mom out there, but this isn't a beauty contest. And I think we've got a dog on our hands with a lot of grit. Somebody who, although she only has I believe, a 9-4 record, I believe she's on the upside, whereas Clark, although she's a full-time fighter, I don't feel comfortable picking Clark in this spot, and I see Alpar as being a live dog. I'm actually going to be picking Alpar to win this fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's able to trip Clark against the fence, and when the going gets tough, is able to find a way onto Clark's back and lock up a submission. So I know this fight is expected to go to a decision at -315, but I'm going to be picking the underdog, Alpar, to get the job done here. Next up, we've got Jordan Espinosa taking on David Dvorak. Flyweight fights. I love this division. 18-3 record for Dvorak, Czech fighter, 8,200 in DK, -110 favorite in this spot. Now, you look at Dvorak, and he's got a very impressive record. He opened up as a significant favorite. This fight has since been bet down, so it's a pick'em right now. It's been a pick'em for most of the week. This fight's expected to go to a decision. You got Jordan Espinosa. You look at his Twitter handle. He's a former state wrestler who doesn't seem to use his wrestling much inside of the octagon. Is a plus athlete, 15-7 record. He's dropping down from 135 pounds. This fight, you're going to see a lot of significant strikes here. $8,000 for Espinosa. Now, you watch Espinosa's game, he looked like a world beater against Mark De La Rosa. And I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of recency bias in this spot. People are going to think that Dvorak's takedown defense isn't up to snuff, and I am in disagreement with that. I think Dvorak is actually going to be landing volume here, looking to stay at space. It's going to be tough to do that in the smaller octagon, so he's going to have to look out for Espinosa's clinch game. But I see in this spot Dvorak being a little bit grittier. I think when the longer the fight goes, Dvorak seems to come alive. And Espinosa, although he's a hot starter, traditionally he's run into some problems down the stretch. And this is a case where I believe Dvorak, the longer the fight goes, is going to put himself in a better position. If this line moves to Dvorak becoming the dog, keep an eye out for that. I'll be picking Dvorak here, but this is a closely lined fight for a reason. Next up, we've got Bueno-Silva taking on Minner-Laramie. Borella, hard to get a read on her. We saw her against Santos, and she's looked like she's had a deer in the headlights in a lot of her fights. Suspect chin, really fascinating. But yesterday she looked great on the scales. 7,200 for Borella, plus 215 underdog. She's actually one of the lower priced fighters in DraftKings. This is rare for a women's fight to be lined not to go the distance, and this is one of them. So Silva, you look at her record, 6-1, has a win over Jillian, and overcame some adversity in that spot. Priced at $9,000. I don't think she's going to have higher ownership. Silva at minus 265. That's a wide line here. Keep an eye out for the Silva inside the distance line in this spot. I think that Borella has shown too many chinks in her armor, especially the Courtney Casey loss. She just didn't show up in that spot, and we've seen it numerous times in the past. Lauren Murphy, you're getting a Silva here who her growth has been stunted. She's been sitting on the sidelines for a while. Give me Silva to win this matchup. Now, we have an interesting matchup here between Mirsad Bektic and Bektic-Jackson. Bektic coming in 9,500. Woo! Minus 357 at the betting window. Bektic, tri-star fighter who has what seems like on paper, and when you watch film of him, the total package, but he can be broken in the octagon, and his chin can get cracked. So he's taking on Bektic-Jackson, 6,700 plus 276. Over at BetDSI. This fight is expected not to go to a decision at minus 130. Bektic-Jackson was beaten to a pulp over a PFL, has been in the UFC beforehand, did not make a good showing of himself, though. In this spot, looks great on the scales. In this spot, Jackson's going to look to grapple, and he's looking to take Bektic into deep waters here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that on short notice. Bektic is a plus athlete here, but I don't trust Bektic. The Ige fight, Danny Ige's been able to break a lot of people, and he broke Bektic in that spot. I suspect, man, this is a tough one here. It's amazing. You got a very wide line favorite. I keep an eye out for Jackson here. I'm not sure if we're going to see Bektic roll in this spot. The odds suggest it's going to be a rout, but I'll pick Bektic here to win. But I don't trust him. I don't trust him. He's had a way of letting fights get away from him, and mentally he collapses. So, but give me Bektic to win. Yeah, we're burning through this card. We got 14 fights, so let's continue this show. We've got Kevin Holland, the Trailblazer, taking on Darren, the Dentist Stewart. If you have a chance, check out the promo that Kevin Holland cut for this one in the dentist chair. You've got Kevin Holland, 18-5 record, somebody who I rate very highly. 9,100 in DK, minus 270 favorite. This line, you had Holland could be had earlier, about a week, 2 weeks ago in the minus 230 region. Now he's been bet up to minus 270. You have on the other side of the fight Darren Stewart, who is a professional. He shows up to fight, gamer, been in there with some tough opponents. 7,100 plus 215. Plus 215 underdog. 12-5 record for Stewart. So both of these guys have 5 losses on their record. But you look at You look at Kevin Holland, he's been there with Thiago Santos. He has wins over Jeff Neal, and he's fought through adversity with his shoulder injury versus Alessio Di Chirico. Granted, that shoulder hasn't been surgically repaired. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at -105. Stewart's a tough out. He's shown that he's gritty. Now, Kevin Holland could take this fight to the ground if he chooses to do so, but I have a feeling he's going to be standing and banging in this spot. And I like his striking defense, Kevin Holland, that is. He's got a very diverse game under Travis Lutter. He's a black belt now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Smart move would be to clinch, get this fight to the ground, and lock up the submission, get out of there. Stewart's a tough guy to submit. And I could see this fight going to a decision. I think Kevin Holland is going to be the sharper fighter, the fighter who's going to land more, and down the stretch going to have the better gas tank. So give me Kevin Holland to win in that spot. Next up, we've got Mackenzie Dern taking on Dern-Markos. Mackenzie Dern, 8-1 record, shown some holes in her game, especially against Hannah Cifers last time out. 8,700 for Mackenzie Dern, -175 favorite. She has left her camp and now spent some brief moments with Jason Perillo. Dern-Markos, gritty. She's one of these fighters who you know you're going to get a great effort from Dern-Markos every time out. 7,500 plus 145 underdog. Here, Markos, 10-8-1 record. This is women's MMA, folks, so just be aware. This fight is expected to go to a decision at -120. You know about Mackenzie Dern's jiu-jitsu game. You know about the birth of her child. You know that she may not be making improvements from fight to fight. I have a feeling she's plateaued, though. This may be enough to get through Dern-Markos here, who's starting to get up there in age and has, I mean, I didn't like what I saw against Ashley Yoder, and I rate Mackenzie Dern higher than Ashley Yoder. And in this spot, I see the fight hitting the mat and Mackenzie Dern utilizing a quick transition on the ground to find Dern-Markos' back, and I see Mackenzie Dern locking up a choke in this fight in the small octagon. Mackenzie Dern does pack some heavy power, but it almost appears as if she is just closing her eyes, gritting her teeth, and swinging for the fences. I don't think that's going to work in this fight against a technical striker in Markos, who is going to be probably landing volume in the spot. But give me Mackenzie Dern to win inside the distance. Let's head to the light heavyweight division, my friends, where we have Johnny Walker taking on Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann, 18-5 record. He's got, actually, both of these guys, look at this. You also have Johnny Walker, 17-5 record. Though Johnny Walker spent a lot of time on the regional scene. He's another one of these guys who is a tremendous athlete, physical freak, gifted. Both of these guys almost have identical reach. You have over 80-plus inch reach in this matchup. Ryan Spann's coming in with the better ground game. I think he also has the more solid, trusted camp in Fortis MMA, where you have Johnny Walker, who's bounced around from gym to gym. Was up in TriStar for a while. I heard Eric Spicely and other folks basically complain that you have this guy Johnny Walker coming in and trying to land flying knees in sparring, and you know, Andrew Sanchez said the same thing. Who wants to spar with somebody who's going to be unleashing those type of techniques and puts you out, and then you're sitting on the sidelines missing a fight? So Johnny Walker, always dangerous. This fight, you look at the odds for it to end inside the distance, -325. And you look at the price from DraftKings, 8,300 and 7,900 respectively. You're going to want a piece of this. Long story short, I see Ryan Spann taking this fight to the ground and locking up a submission in this spot. He actually had Nogueira in some tough spots and was lighting Nogueira up. Granted, Nogueira looks like a tree stump walking around inside the octagon these days. He's since retired. It's going to be tough to track down the elusive Johnny Walker. You're going to have to put yourself in danger, in harm's way, to accomplish that task. So I understand why this fight is lined virtually as a pick'em, but I'll be picking the side of Ryan Spann, the underdog, to come through in this spot. Next up, we have a hype train that some folks believe could potentially get derailed against Cerrone-Meerschaert. We've got Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev coming in at 9,400 in DK, minus 455 betting favorite. 26 years of age, brash, confident, cocky young man. Rubs a lot of people in the industry the wrong way, the way he's acting prior to this fight. Taking on a seasoned, grizzled veteran in Cerrone-Meerschaert, who is 31 and 13, has been finished. Meerschaert's been finished double digits in his career. You look at his record. This guy has over 20 submission victories, 6,800 in DK. There is a chance that Meerschaert could potentially pull off a submission in this spot. I see plus 335 underdog here for the 32-year-old veteran of the game, Cerrone-Meerschaert. You look at this fight and you know that Chimaev is going to come out like a ball of energy, and he's going to put Meerschaert on his back. Once that happens, he is playing with fire here, but I like what I see in Chimaev. He comes from a solid camp in All Stars, where he trains with the likes of Alexander Gustafsson and others. Granted, Gustafsson doesn't have solid submission defense, but this is a different matchup here, and I like what I've seen when Chimaev is able to maintain top position, the way he's able to ride opponents, and he seems positionally sound in many aspects of his game. He's able to ride out and wait for his opportunity to either land strikes or attempt to lock in a submission of his own. You watched the Cerrone-Meerschaert-Kevin Holland fight. You tell me Kevin Holland had so many opportunities to win that fight. So did Meerschaert, but Meerschaert is a wild man in there, and I see him getting pieced up, tossed around, and ultimately finished in this spot. So give me Khamzat Chimaev to win in this spot and put up significant DraftKings points. I know he's not the nicest guy, but this isn't a gentleman's contest. This is the fight game, and I have to pick Chimaev to win that fight. Next up, we have the co-main event of the evening, where we have Donald Cerrone taking on Niko Price. Niko Price coming in off of a beating of a lifetime. This isn't getting talked about that much, but the beating he took from from Vicente Luque, that was rough. That I was swollen up. We are 3 months, almost 3 months to the day from that fight, and he's back in there. Price is coming in with a 3-inch reach advantage. He's the natural welterweight, minus 145 favorite. The line is closed a little bit here, 8,500 in DK. You know, there are 9 fights here that are going to end that are lined to end inside the distance. This is one of them, minus 365 that this fight's going to end inside the distance. You look at Cerrone, 36 and 15 record, taking big time damage over his last 4 fights, except, I'll be honest, the Pettis fight, he didn't take much damage in that fight, but prior to that, 3 consecutive finish losses. Rough stuff for my man, Cowboy Cerrone. 7,700 in DK, plus 115 underdog. A couple of things here. It is crystal clear that Donald Cerrone is the more highly skilled fighter in almost every aspect of the game. Granted, the amount of damage that Cerrone has taken recently, the way he swells up, and also his rigidity in the cage. This is somebody who's going to be 38 years of age shortly, and he looks so stiff when he's standing up. I'm concerned for Cerrone in this spot. I was about to tweet last night the amount of significant strikes that Cerrone has absorbed. If somebody would like to tally that, if you go to UFC stats and want to tally his strikes absorbed back through the WEC days until today. I know we've got guys like Travis Fulton with 300 pro fights under their belt, but you watch Cerrone, he has taken so many beatings and so many wars, and he's bounced back. It's hard to get a good read on Cerrone. Sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. And in this spot, I think he's going to show up, I think he's going to show out, and then I think he's going to get caught and get dropped and get finished. But until then, I suspect Donald Cerrone is going to be winning this fight. And I could see him winning either via finish or taking this fight to the scorecards. But I have to think that Niko Price, who has fight-ending power from every single area inside of the octagon, to land something during those 15 minutes that puts Donald Cerrone on Queer Street and gets him out of there. So give me Niko Price to win this fight inside the distance. And then I'm not sure where Cerrone goes from here if he loses the fight, to be honest. He's been a gamer, but I was hoping that we would see Khamzat Chimaev versus Donald Cerrone on U.S. soil to introduce Chimaev to the United States fans. Wasn't happening, but we've got Niko Price against Donald Cerrone. Give me Niko Price in that fight. Now, main event of the evening, my friends, where we have Tyron Woodley taking on Colby Covington. Phenomenal matchup here. We've got Woodley coming in at 6,900 plus 250 underdog. Colby Covington, 9,300 minus 325 favorite. You've got a 15-2 Covington, somebody who was in there against Kamaru Usman, made a great account of himself in that fight, was hanging with Usman, and then eventually just the strikes started to tally up, and we were concerned about a broken jaw in that matchup. Apparently his jaw was not broken, but he was humbled for a few minutes in that spot. I don't think folks are going to be... I think we're going to see someone walk out of the cage tonight completely humiliated. Who is it going to be? This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 180. You've got Tyron Woodley, who was smoked out of the water for 5 consecutive rounds by Gilbert Burns. You have Tyron Woodley, who was completely dominated by Kamaru Usman. You have Tyron Woodley, who was avoiding matchups when he held the strap. In this spot, I see Colby Covington coming in here, working his way inside. He's got to be very cautious of the fight-ending power that Tyron Woodley still possesses. Remember, power is the last thing to go. Now, Colby Covington, he's going to have to show up with his phenomenal gas tank like he almost always does. He's going to have to avoid the guillotine submission choke. He is going to have to pour it on late, and I see the path to victory. It is becoming crystal clear, and I'm going to be picking Colby Covington to walk away with the victory. I wish this fight would have been made when Woodley held the strap, because I see that Colby Covington would have taken that W and taken that undisputed championship of the world with him if Woodley and Covington fought. But that wasn't the case. We've got it tonight. We have Colby Covington as the minus 315 favorite. Give me Colby Covington to win. Let's do this, my friends. There you have it. Getting so excited. I'm spilling the coffee on my shirt. Big night of fights. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Banged out this 14 card breakdown, and we're looking at about 40 minutes here. You can check out my plays over at MMA Odds Breaker Premium. You can follow me at betmma.tips. You can follow me on Twitter at MikesMMAPicks. Go get what's yours, my friends. This is your time. Let's do this.